concerning transitional justice. Let me start by saying that transitional justice justice alone is not enough, but there is no equity. That's why we need to refer to transitional justice. This term is not well defined, and I don't think it is well accurate being by the international law.
أسقطوا عليها إشكالات القانون الدولي اللي بيعينها المطاطية. لكن برضو أنا أقول يا إخوانا في العدالة الانتقالية الصياغات بتختلف. هسه هذا صياغات كثيرة جدا ما بتنطبق علينا. إحنا المفروض نحدد إنه دايرين شنو العدالة الانتقالية. لأن الصياغات ما كلها جات فيها فظايع زي هكذا. في انتقال بيكون سلس يعني بدون يكون فظايع زي كذا.
atrocities, without conflicts. So in our case, we abide by the constitutional charter and the peace agreement that is signed. So, in fact, we need to reach peace. There is a difference between establishment of peace and transitional justice, but our objective is to reach a stable and safe country. Talking about the affected people or the victims being in the areas affected by the crisis, transitional justice concerns also the different bodies of the country being in its different structures in order to prepare the ground for the future. It also concerns the mechanisms of reparation for the victims in order to find the way forward. And sometimes there are some obstacles before this transitional justice. There is also the importance of the reform of the institutions in order to cover marginalized groups according to the different models. So the transitional justice is important in order to build capacities of people who have been affected by the war and the crisis. The woman is suffering and suffered a lot. And through the transition, there may be some changes in the power forces, but the social kinds may not change. Even at the level of revolutions, the changes may not be that radical, and women will be living in injustice situations. So we need to focus on her rights that are amended in the conventions, international conventions, regional agreements. Some people are talking about peace and the importance of Mobutu Protocol, who is covering women's rights, concerning peace and stability. But during the transitional justice, we need to abide ourselves to the international charters and conventions, and we need also to do our effort in order to make the country adopt the declaration of Nairobi, who support the rights of girls and women in affected areas. There is also a need to practice some pressure on some groups. Our colleague was talking about the terms, the definitions, but that does not show, in fact, the transitional justice. We didn't see the role of women in this program. And in order to protect women, we need to respect these conventions, international conventions, that are reviewed from time to time. Domestically, what what we witnessed is that we don't revise or examine these conventions. So we need to have some pressure on the legislators and on the national institutions. Women should play her role during the transitional justice. She needs to participate in the negotiations and the agreements concerning the establishment of the commission. We should be active. We should advocate for ending hostilities, atrocities. We should be part of the negotiations, peace talks. We should be present when the agendas are discussed in order to include women's rights. That should not happen afterwards. So it's important that women should participate in all these different institutions. Usually, peace agreements support women's rights, but that depends on her capacity to pressure, being through the international community or domestically through the activists. So we need, in fact, to include women's rights. Sometimes the international community may encourage, in fact, the country in order to get some assistance, maybe financial assistance. So this is a condition in order to help people respect the right of women. The evolution of women's role in the peace talks. Women was just symbolic in Abuja agreement. That is why the reparations were not agreed upon, and the government didn't respect the reparation. That is why there had been some accomplishment with the traditional, and the perpetrators were not held accountable. Those who committed rapes using arms in Darfur. So with these pressures, there had been some symbolic trials who examined some cases that has nothing to do with the cases. Some of the victims left the country, so it is important to be a little bit serious. You know that today, therefore, cases are submitted to the ICC, and there are some underreported statements that should be part of the coming transitional justice. So we need to say that in the transitional and even the armed groups were part of the decision-making in some time. So some of the armed groups said that they are struggling for women, but that was not the case when they came to sign agreements. That is why we need to rethink these ideas. You know that today women are households in the majority of the families. In Abuja agreement, women participated for the first time, and we had a number of posts, but they were not effective. The role of women developed in Juba. She was in the different tracks of the negotiations. So let us say that that was the first time that woman was found in the round table in Juba. She was responsible for a number of very crucial files, and she was participative. And she included a number of agendas concerning the resolution 1325, and she managed to get 40% of the posts. In fact, that can enhance the participation of women in decision-making. concerning the transitional justice in direct or indirect ways. We have got a number of access that cover different institutions and a number of private institutions, being the security sector, the DDR sections, and I would like to focus here on the fact that people are focusing on trials and courts and the procedures, the judicial procedures. But let us talk about other dimensions that are very important when we talk today about gold mining in some areas being popular, or there are some areas where there are a number of violations. There are some cases of abortion for women and some animals because they are using materials. There are maybe sexual importers for women, and in some areas we don't have children. So we affected negatively people that should be part of the transitional justice. In some areas we don't. People were removed from their areas. So these are crimes against humanity, and they should be part of the transitional justice. So we need a real participation of women and integrity. It is true that we have a commission for transitional justice that is directly responsible, but I think all the line ministers should be responsible. The Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Agriculture, the infrastructure, hydraulic resources should be part of the transitional justice. People may don't know that. We have different contexts that are really affected by the coming situation. And therefore people may be talking about the importance of executing, but people are aware that they need to put an end for wars, and I think people are aware of the conflicts. People in the camps understand that al-Bashir is not going to be extradited to the ICC, but this is not their concern. Their concern is that they need to go back to their lands, they need to produce, they need to settle. That is what they need today. They have nothing to do with these trials. But still, women should be part of the implementing bodies, not just for women, but for the sake of the local communities, in order to respect so we need to have a comprehensive treatment, and peace agreements should not be in line with the transitional justice. These reconciliations, if they didn't succeed, we are going back to the judicial procedures. So let us work for the reconciliation. Because in fact through reconciliation we can easily reach agreements between people. So it is important to focus on these transitional justice, and you know that today some of the armed groups are still not part of the peace agreements. So it is high time to work for the transitional justice. So today, in fact, men are controlling even the cases concerning the women. Women do not come to the court. It is just the men who takes even the reparation amounts. We need also to deal with gender-based violence in order to put an end for these practices. So we need to put an end for these practices in order to have a balanced development for our regions, in order not to have armed groups again. It's true that men are killed in the affected areas, but in fact today men left these areas. Some of them joined the armed groups, but women stayed and they suffered a lot because they were looking after their children, so they were targeted by gender-based violence. Concerning the Commission for Transitional Justice, the establishment of this commission as one of the transitional institutions should be in consultation with the victims, especially women who are victims of sexual violence. And I think we have got a number of mechanisms in place. And I don't think through this study people manage to meet the victims. We need also to consult the experts who are working in the camps. We need also to deal consultations with the resistance committees, even within the camps. Why? In order to guarantee a treatment that is a whole package, comprehensive, being for a legal assistance or for a social assistance, for justice, for equity, and the reparation and the individual rehabilitation. And I think there is an intervention. As women, we can benefit of this mechanism in order to be part of the transitional justice. We need also to build these agreements on the satisfaction and the consensus of the victims. There is also, it's also important to design the violations. When we use traditional methods, we don't guarantee, in fact, the rights of the victims. So better not dedicate for such practices. So it is important to mention the situation of the woman today in the community. We are talking about generalities in this document. So there is no link between the rights of women and the articles of this document. The administration should also be clear. The legislation for the establishment of the transitional justice, so women should be part of this program. In order not to focus all the power in men. Women should target a number of departments. They should say that we need a woman at the head of this commission. They need to decide where to find themselves, being in the statistics. So at this level, we know that there are structures for the commission. We need to have our structure well defined in order that women should know what is their position, and in order to be able to modify this situation. So let us not link the institution with this structure. It is also important to have the gender issues clear in the preamble, we have got a number of women groups, being civil or political. We are working for peace. We have SOR, the Ahfad University. So we need to have an idea about this. It's also important that we should know how these articles are abiding. I was following the Commission for Human Rights, and Professor Abdul Salam was saying that the role of the Commission should be just a supervisor. This is an experience that we lived before, and we don't know to repeat such bad experiences. A number of issues didn't change even after the revolution. Women was not participating in decision making, but today we need to change the situation. So we need to have clear functions, clear responsibilities for the Commission. And when we talk about women in transitional justice, it's important to reform the institutions, the judicial institutions, the law enforcement institutions, because women these institutions were participating in the repression of women for so long time. We need to build on the end of the violations. It is also important to have transparency in the even in the private sector. We need to link this sector with the objective of the state in order to get the rights of women. It is important to enable women to participate in the different justice institutions in the different contexts, and to have legal assistance from the women in order to understand the sisters. They should also be part of the leaders of the local communities. And transitional justice is for everybody, in fact. The importance of services and the dissemination of participatory culture in the community. There are a number of activities that I would like to make clear. We think that there should be surveys, qualitative surveys, to show the needs of women and the kind of violations women suffer from. We need also to have the legal assistance, and we need also to have mechanisms concerning women, land commission. These commissions are very important for women because they can empower women, and we can find ourselves within these institutions. We need to advocate in order to find ourselves. There are also committees for the implementation of the peace agreement. It is controlled by men. We need to be part of that. The implementation of the resolution 1325, and women should be part of all these mechanisms and bodies. We need also to establish committees, and women should have her say within these mechanisms. It is also important that the media reflect the importance of women for the community, the importance to reach the transitional justice mechanisms. It is also important that women should be part of the different committees, the legal assistance, the provision of legal assistance, and to have access to the law enforcement. Some women cannot even get the national number. And so it is very important that women should have access to these institutions because women are suffering. Especially for women, for nomad women, it is also important that reparation for women should start very early. Some people may say that I'm talking about peace, about reparation, but I think this is a crucial part of the transitional justice. The procedures will take a long time. And the perpetrators should be held accountable. We have got a number of mechanisms. There were some engagement from some governments. And in fact, there is no commitment from the governments to pay the reparations. We need to use experts who respect the cultural backgrounds. So women should participate in these different mechanisms in order to be able to listen. We need also, and we need to be very transparent, and we should exert our efforts in order that the IDPs should return to their homelands, to their villages. Thank you. We open the floor for comments and discussion. You have addressed core issues, and you know that in the constitutional charter we are talking about 40% of the members that should be from women, and this is one of the main issues. They are not able to represent the consensus. So I want to show you that it's not easy to put an end. Nida Sudan presented Maryam al-Sadiq. In these institutions, people are not represented by women. So in a committee that's composed of 23 persons, there are just 2 women. When we protest, the political parties say that they don't have women leaders. And things do not stop here. If you expect that, you will have a hand with mandam and sword. Conducted a survey at the level of the country in order to say that there are leaders, women leaders, real leaders across the country. So people should know that we have women leaders of high profile. So we need to go for affirmative action for women. I had a lot of talks like this. You need to take serious action in order to find yourself in the programs. Thank you. Thank you, Azza.
You have mentioned many things. You have covered many things. I hope that everybody who is involved in transitional justice think about these details so that we are able to revise the model, and all the specific needs should be included and incorporated in all the phases of the establishment of transitional justice. And the people who are wronged the most are women and the youth. So no justice will be established in Sudan if we don't consider all the issues and the issues of women and youth. Let me answer these two questions. Prof. Shaddad, with all due respect, I already mentioned in my presentation is that we need to work very hard. The issue is not resolved by the integration of women, so we have to struggle. We have to exert more effort so that we are able to be incorporated, but we have to work hard so that we are able to impose our agenda. Is considering Ms. Sosan's statement, I had to pack a lot of information because the time was very limited. So the time slot that I had was 10 minutes. So we have to another time we have to explain these things, and we have to discuss them in a more opportune time. Thank you very much, Ms. Azza. My name is Sadia Botros. I have a very simple comment. I just want to say concerning rights and freedoms, all of them should be granted in an equal way, but sometimes what happens is that some of the freedoms are more important than the others. You already mentioned justice, the issue of justice, and you demanded that there should be justice. But let me tell you that oftentimes, even in some other countries besides Sudan, all of us who have the right to the freedom of movement, but when there are some security concerns, this right is usually usurped in favor of the security, so that we don't have any movement. So this what happens oftentimes. As far as peace and justice, sometimes they are not realized at the same time, simultaneously. So when we discuss, sometimes we have some fighting groups, and they come to talk peace and to try to reach solutions. Usually, these people have committed a lot of crime. Both groups have committed a lot of crimes, but they come and sit at the negotiating table through some mediators. So they talk freely and admit the problems, and they try to reach solutions. And then after that, pardon is effected. That's what Muhammad Abdul Salam referred to, which is truth in exchange of pardon. This is not justice. Justice means that when we have a criminal, this criminal should be punished duly. This is my comment. Thank you, Ms. Sadia. Okay, these are experiences of different contexts. We have different contexts. That means we will have different priorities. This should not be at the expense of the victims. For instance, we have the local leaders. They come and they effect peace, but sometimes we have some victims who are not satisfied with the solutions. So that's what happened during the past or the old regime. We used to have the head of the security apparatus where these people were bribed by money. These bribes were not according to the law. The native administration affiliates were bribed, and usually the commissioner who is bribed receives whomever he wanted and rejects whomever he wants. Thank you, Ms. Azza. I think your presentation is very important, especially as concerns the representation of women. I think the 40% is too small. These are the ones that bore the brunt of these injustices, and they are the ones who also shouldered the responsibility of changing that regime. But who excludes women? Is it the political party? Is it the forces of freedom and change? We have to play our part. We have to come together as women. We have to have one opinion so that we are part of all these commissions, so that our voice is heard. Because if we are underrepresented, our rights will be usurped. We have to be present in all these organs and all these bodies, because we have to deal justly with women. We have to give them their due rights. Thank you. Just a comment. I think the timing of this session at this time, I think it's problematic for women's issues to be discussed at that time. It would have been better if we had discussed it in the morning. It would have received more time for discussion. I think there are 3 issues concerning women. Issue number 1 is representation in the different mechanisms and the different bodies, including the Transitional Justice Commission. The draft law adheres to the 40% as a minimum percentage of women's representation in the commission. However, the future mechanisms should have enough representation of women, such as the committees for reparation, investigation, also representation of women, because women are stakeholders, and it's not just they should be involved in all issues, not just the issues of gender. They are part and parcel of the society. That's why they have to be partners, and they should be involved adequately. Issue number 3, issues which have to do with society and the different the gender-based violations. I think there is a necessity that we should take them on board in all the consultations pertaining to transitional justice. Thank you very much. The speech of Dr. Awatif and Mr. Sid Ahmed from the Minister of Justice, I consider that as recommendations. We as women should take these recommendations. Thank you very much for listening. We see you tomorrow.
في كلمة ختامية مع الدكتور عبد السلام سيد أحمد. تفضل دكتور عبد السلام.
Mr. Abdel Salam Sid Ahmed, you have the floor. There is not much to be said to be added to the previous discussions. These discussions, I just want to convey the greetings and salutations of His Excellency the Minister of Justice, who is out of town on a mission, so he has not been able to attend, especially the opening session. But the discussions that took place today are very fruitful, are very valid, and they will be taken into consideration upon the consultations on the Transitional Justice Commission. Let me say again, what has been prepared so far is a draft law for the creation of a Transitional Justice Commission. This is something that has been provided for by the Constitutional Charter. So this law creates or sets the stage for the creation of this commission. I noticed some people have some kind of confusion about the commission and the law. So Dr. Mohammed Abdel Salam is going to hold dialogues with civil society, and I hope we reach a formula accepted by all parties concerned about this law. This law, as I mentioned this year, is now being vetted and is being reviewed, and it's having many elements being incorporated in it. In the final aspect of it or form of it will be submitted to a legislative body to be adopted, but we have to form this commission very quickly, very soon, so that all the issues that have to do with transitional justice are addressed, and Sudan is able to draw the map about transitional justice. Once again, I'd like to thank the attendees on behalf of myself and on behalf of the Minister. Thank you for attending, and I appreciate all the opinions that were expressed here. And I would like to underscore the fact that this is an ongoing process. It will not stop, and we hope these discussions will continue until we reach a law and mechanisms which are satisfactory to everybody. And for sure, there are going to be some outstanding issues that are not accepted by all parties, but our goal is the same. We need to reach transitional justice, which will establish justice and achieve justice for the victims, and to do away and to close this chapter of violations of the past. So justice is achieved for everybody. Thank you. we have reached the end of this workshop, consultative workshop concerning transitional justice and the laws of transitional justice. Thank you very much to all of you. Thanks to all of you.